This meeting is being recorded.
My goodness, I have all kinds of computers talking to me.
Mine talks too.
Oh, I'm telling you what, there's no peace with these computers. So what I want to do tonight is look at the project design proposal as a whole, because there are some little pieces. Now, those little pieces are going to end up being important. And so just because they're not the big pieces of, let me see if I can do this. I got two screens up. One has a
Dr. Asplund, I think you got muted somehow.
How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. Now we can hear you.
Let me try again. So what I'm going to do, can you still hear me, guys?
Yes.
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 Because I've got two screens going. So you know what? I may simplify this by just not bringing this screen up and just doing this. Can you all see this okay?
Yes.
You can see it anyway. So what I want to do tonight is make sure we're clear on
Give me a shit.
Clear on the proposal as a whole. So rather than calling up that, the slideshow, I'm just going to show you my slides. I'm also going to make this available, of course, as a PDF document and put it on our course resources so that you can see it there as well. So let's look at the whole proposal because I think it's not going to be more than a couple of weeks, frankly, that you're going to start working on those other pieces. In fact, these little pieces you can start working on right away. So there are a total of 12 sections in the proposal. There are 4 introductory sections and the big one in the middle, the big research reports in the middle, the summary of the literature, BTH, historical foundations, and then there are 5 very short concluding sections. And it's all important. It's all important, even though it doesn't take nearly as much time to work with those both either the introductory sections or the concluding sections. But before we do that, let me ask you, just by way of a progress report, we are nearly completely done. There's almost no work left, just a couple of cleanup. One of the things we've run into and have addressed before is that 897 is a great opportunity, almost a last opportunity in a sense, to review the skills needed for Turabian, for Microsoft Word, even the use of Grammarly. Because if it comes up down the road, or you start to, okay, now I'm going to start composing chapter 2. It's going to be at least 30 pages. And now I'm going to move on to chapter 3, etc. while conducting your project. Well, it's just a nightmare if you haven't been able to kind of review those basic skills involved that are, they seem pesky, but they're very, very important. Then it's just going to come back around and give you aggravation that you don't need every step along the way. But if you can take the time to review those skills, those Turabian issues, those Microsoft Word issues, just very quickly, how to get a Grammarly to do what you want it to do and not do what you don't want it to do. That's why I've made some of those tutorials available in the course resources section, of the course. If you can take time this semester to review those, then when you start into the big stuff, you know, the dissertation, the project, it's just going to be a lot easier. It's going to be a lot smoother. It's going to take a lot less time because you've got it all set up the way you want it to be set up. So let me ask you, however, I'm starting, all of your BTH outlines look really, really good. I'm starting to work on the BTH documents that you've sent me. I've already done, let's see, I've already done Travis. Tim is next. You know, I kind of have it downloaded, so I know what I'm going to do for those. I anticipate those are going to be a lot better, simply because you've been through the process already with the summary of the literature. And so I'm diving into that document. And in the meantime, you know, I sent you last night, I sent you a week 9 video announcement that kind of introduces the next thing that we're doing together. But I anticipate that it's all going to be going very smoothly from here on out. But let me ask you folks, while you are here, whether or not you have any kind of questions, issues that are still not clear, you would like me to be able to help you a little bit when it comes to either the summary of the literature or the BTH foundations. Let's take a moment to find out whether or not you have something for me tonight that we can address while we're together.
We've already addressed my issues, Dr. Asplund.
Yeah. So no, you're going to do fine, Woodrow. I'm not concerned about any of you. As you know, what I'm doing, my strategy is to try to save us a lot of headache at the end by saying, okay, let's work together so that you have what is essentially a perfect summary of the literature document and a perfect, you know, BTH Historical Foundations document, so that you can then, at the end, when we start working with the template, you can just copy and paste. My experience in this class is if we wait till week 13 to start doing that, it can be overwhelming. It can be overwhelming. So it's really pretty easy, I think, if we can do all of that as we go along. And then when we come to week 13 and we start, you know, copying and pasting stuff into that template, I think you'll find that it's saved us a lot of time. I don't mind doing some of the, you know, when it comes to some of these pesky little formatting issues, because I view 897 as a review opportunity, I don't mind sending you some feedback and then doing a little bit of that work myself. When it comes to, you know, footnotes can be an issue. Occasionally, Microsoft Word jumped in and it's doing something odd. It kept changing the setting on you. So occasionally I will jump in, I will point that out, and then I will change it and send you a revised document that maybe still needs a little bit of work. I would rather you not, you know, it's just aggravating to have to deal with all that little stuff. And I would rather you not exhaust yourself, because you all are doing great work. So the research you're doing, the writing you're doing is very, very good. And in the end, that's the thing that counts, quite frankly. So I don't mind in some cases providing you with a specific feedback and say, by the way, I jumped in and did it for you. But I just want you to know. And so the attached document has all of that done, so you don't have to be fussing with it. Let's move on. You know, we want to have a sense that we're making progress, or we're going to get to the finish line. And I'm convinced that all of you are going to get to the finish line, quite frankly. So job well done for all of you. And I anticipate, from what I'm seeing so far, is that your BTH Foundations document is going to feel easier than the summary of the literature, just because you've been through the process with that document. And so I think it's gonna look good. Any questions or comments on this before we move on to these little pieces?
This is Cynthia. I'm still having problems with my Grammarly. You know, you sent it back and you said that emailed me, said that you didn't see where I had opened it, so I don't know what I'm doing wrong with it.
And it's, I gave you, I hate to call this, Tim, can I use yours as an example?
Sure, yeah.
I haven't given Tim any feedback, so don't anybody think anything about Tim. Tim is a great guy. He's going to do good work. He's doing good work. So if you have loaded Grammarly properly, and I gave you a document that I think is very, very good. It's basically how to get Grammarly to work in Microsoft Word. So, you know, a couple of times, to be honest, Cynthia, I thought I knew I had Grammarly loaded onto Microsoft Word so it would work. It's just an Office download that Grammarly gives you. And then for some reason, all of a sudden it wasn't there. And so I'm thinking, well, what in the world? So I went back to the Grammarly.com, you know, and you use your Regent information to log on and reloaded, to put the Office app back on, and then it appeared, because it needs to appear here. So if it's where it ought to be and it's working, then you have this Grammarly, open Grammarly. So you have to press that, and then you get ready for the fun to begin, Let me.
Yeah, I see the big G at the end.
Yeah.
On the screen.
Yeah.
And then I go through it, highlights in red.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking I got it loaded. So hopefully it does well. And then when I notice when I transfer it to you, Word, when it goes from one other to back and forth, it unaligns itself. I can have it say one way, then I get to you, it's different.
Well, if you save after you've done with, of course you've done this, Cynthia, so I don't mean to insult your intelligence, but if you save it after we get to decide what of Grammarly's suggestions we want to accept and what we don't. Because it's not uncommon for me to say, no, you know what? I like the way I'm wording it better. So I'm not going to, I found that Grammarly doesn't like how the scripture is worded. I said, forget it. I'm not going to change the Bible for you, Bubba. It's just not going to happen. And so this is where you adjust the goals up here. And that's usually what I reference. So if you go into the goals, now I've got the lazy goals up. So if I put in expert, and then I put academic down here, and I put formal over here. And then I set the goals that way, and get ready for a lot of lines then when you do that. And okay, here we go. And it's going to take a fresh look at it. And here it's going to give me more information than I need. But once again, remember, you have the right to say, okay, yes, I think that's a great idea. Or no, I don't think so. I think I would rather word it the way I've got it. I think it's most helpful when it's just pointing out some kind of a simple grammatical issue, or maybe an issue of punctuation or capitalization, the simple things. Grammarly loves commas. So if I went up here to this, for instance, and I just left clicked it, see how it went over here, and it says, okay, it wants me to put in a comma. Well, that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to accept that one. I'm going to put in the comma. So it's a bit of work, isn't it? Because you have to then examine whether or not you agree with that recommendation. So usually the simple recommendations I always agree with. When it comes to, it doesn't like my style, which is what this is going to be, then I may or may not agree with it. So this is where you adjust the goals, or you can do all issues, or you can say, I don't want it to look at all issues. I just wanted to look at just the very simple correctness issues. So give it to me if I did something wrong with what does it want me to do here for Tim? Inconsistent punctuation. Well, maybe it loves a comma more than I love it. So I have to make that, or maybe I just wanted to look at clarity issues and I don't want it to look at everything. So see, you can engage in various ones and not in the others. So if you click all issues, then it's going to hit you with everything. And that's maybe too much. I rarely do that, frankly. I would rather just pick one of these or one at a time or whatever. Plagiarism, it will do everything for you. And it takes a bit of time, but if it looks like, I have found when it comes to dissertation defenses, that members of the committee are going to notice whether or not, and they'll take the dissertation, they'll load it onto their computer and they'll fire up Grammarly and they'll notice whether or not you did much or anything with it. And it will come up in the dissertation. I had my first dissertation defense of the summer. I had a good brother who was defending his dissertation. I had two other brothers that were coming behind him. And sure enough, Dr. Wood, I don't know if you know Dr. Wood, she said, by the way, you need to run this through Grammarly. So she kind of pointed out what I'm pointing out to you. These other, boy, put the fear of God into the other two brothers. They went home and they loaded up their dissertation, turned on Grammarly, and they figured, I would rather someone not draw that to my attention during my defense. So it takes a bit of time. But once you do it, then you just don't have to mess with it anymore. You don't have to worry about it anymore. Just get her done kind of a thing. So Grammarly is one of those things that can be very helpful. I always have it on, even when I'm doing like an email message or I'm doing comments on an assignment. I have Grammarly on. Now, for me, part of my problem is I tend to think faster than I type. So I have some typos along the way, and Grammarly will point those out. Well, I find that that's very helpful, or maybe I did make a basic grammatical error. So I find it helpful. I always have it on, no matter what I'm doing. But I'm also free to say, no, I'm not going to change the wording of the scripture just because you don't like it. Let's move on from there.
Dr. Asplund.
Yeah.
I have Grammarly Premium. Is that okay, or we need to?
That's what I just showed you. I have the same thing. We have it fortunately free of charge as Regent faculty and students and staff. That's what I showed you. But occasionally, as I was telling Cynthia, occasionally I've called up Word and I can't see what happened to Grammarly. There should even be something on the top, a navigation bar that says Grammarly as well. And so I'll just go back to Grammarly.com and I'll reload that Office app. I don't know what happened to it, but you can tell whether or not it's up and running. And if it is, just take a little bit of time, and that way you don't have to mess with it later on.
Well, when I try to set the goals, I don't see where you set them in there. I go to settings and I don't see where you set expert, academic, or formal. I don't see where you. Okay,
then let me get Tim back.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I hope Tim's not minding. So see up here where in the upper left where it says adjust goals.
Trying to see.
Do you see that on the screen I'm sharing?
No, I'm looking at question about research reports.
Okay, you don't see this screen that I'm sharing when I'm pointing out Grammarly?
No, sir, I do not.
My goodness.
My screen is black. I don't see anything.
Wow.
Is this y'all computer? Y'all can see stuff I don't see anything.
Let me try again.
Maybe I have to log out and come back in.
Okay, tell me what you see now.
I don't see anything.
Now I see it. Now I see it.
I'm gonna log out and come back in because I don't see anything. My screen is all black.
Oh.
Let me reload everything.
All right. So Woodrow, do you see
Yes, sir. I see it. I do.
So up here, of course, I've opened Grammarly, so I'm not going to close it. Right next to it is adjust the goals.
Okay.
So when you click that, that's when you go in and set your goals.
Oh.
Expert, formal, and academic simply means that it's going to give you more recommendations than the other settings would.
Okay. I got to go back and reload Grammarly from the student point of view. because I knew I needed Grammarly, so I bought the prescription myself. I bought it myself.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, it's available. They provided us a link and I can't remember what it is.
I'll get it from.
This
I'll
is
get it.
where these are all issues, or you can just do one issue at a time so that you are not, it can be discouraging to see that almost everything is underlined to say, well, whatever, I thought I did pretty good. So
Okay.
you can just do one thing at a time and not worry about the rest. It simplifies matters that way.
Okay.
Cynthia,
Okay.
Cynthia, can you see what I'm looking at now with Grammarly?
I
Yes.
see it now. Well, where is that link? Because I don't have the premium. I need the premium. That I can get.
I need, if it's not at the Blackboard homepage, let me make sure I get that from the folks in the office, either probably Matt Chandler will, and I remember when they sent the link out, but let me make sure I get that link again from Matt, and then I'll send that to everybody, because we have a free premium just because we're connected, somebody there at Regent's paying for it.
Yeah, that's what I need. I don't have the premium. That's why I can't get. I don't have those type of icons. I don't have the premium.
All of this. So
Neither do I.
So be sure to send me a reminder. I think I'll remember, but send me a reminder that I need to get that premium link that gives us access to Grammarly as Regent folks. And let me get it again and send it to everybody just to make sure you have it.
Thank you.
That would be helpful, don't you think?
Yes,
Yes.
that's the issue I'm having.
All right, you know what? It's technology. What are we going to do? So let me go back to these slides. What I want to do is I'm not going to take a lot of time because this information is available to you. I've loaded a bunch of resources, extra resources onto our Blackboard site. And so there is some additional resources that describe the proposal, the various sections of the proposal. One is actually annotated. It's an annotated document. The other one is, it's called a markup document, where I've just added some additional information to what's there. But and this will be available to you as well. So there are 4 introductory sections, and they're all quite short. So the very first one is the overview. And again, these are going to be major headings. The overview is just a short introduction to the ministry project. And so it's kind of the main, it's the general introduction, the overview. 250, I would think no more than two paragraphs. Of course, when I say paragraph, that doesn't really define it very well, which is why, because you could have a 10-word paragraph and a 100-word or a 200-word paragraph. So just as a rule of thumb, that's why I'm giving you these words. These are not word count requirements. This is just a sense of what it looks like. These are just a rule of thumb. Overview, then the statement of the problem is the next introductory section, where you identify the topic under consideration. You amplify the surrounding issues for the topic, and then you provide the research question. By the way, your statement of the problem question is good to throw in a couple of times in the proposal. And so that's the statement of the problem. That's section number 2. And then number 3 is the rationale for doing the ministry project. We're looking for some specific things. So this is where you explain the significance of the study, and you answer 4 simple questions. Why are you interested in the topic? Why is there a need to address the problem, obviously in your context? Who would benefit from your research? And what gap in the research are you addressing? Sometimes we wonder, well, you are at the very least, you're addressing a gap because no one else is dealing with your specific situation, your congregation, your community, whatever it is that your research context is. No one else is No one else has done that. That's what you're doing that's unique. Again, it's short, maybe 3 paragraphs. And then number 4 is the limitations and assumptions, where you clarify the scope of your research and the boundaries of your project. So you're not trying to do everything. You're just trying to do a very specific thing. And also the guidelines ask us to state that the project is, and I actually gave you the quote, from an evangelical perspective and in consonance with the statements of faith as they appear in the Regent School of Divinity catalog. That's just a direct quote. So I look for that sentence. It's just one of those things that, it connects us to the School of Divinity, which is fine. So these are all short. These are not long, but they're very important. As you can imagine, they set the stage. They're introductory to the big ones. Then you'll launch into the summary of the literature, and then you'll launch into the BTH foundations. That's the heart of the matter. And then you do some final, very short concluding sections. So after your BTH foundations document, there is the section called Methods for Analyzing the Problem. All of these are anticipatory because they address project design specifically, and therefore, that connects also to research methodology. You don't know for sure what that's going to be until your HSR application has been approved. That's where the decision is made as to specifically what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. But these concluding sessions try to anticipate a bit of that. So under Methods for Analyzing the Problem, after describing the various considerations and possibilities for your project, state which project methods or elements you hope to utilize. You're kind of imagining what you would like to do. Maybe you would like to do some structured interviews. Maybe you would like to do a bit of a workshop, and maybe you want to test the workshop with a pre-test and a post-test. At this point, you're kind of imagining what it is that you would like to do, while recognizing that project design is a bit of a work in project. Even after you have an improved HSR application, you may find that as you begin to actually do your research, you might think, I would like to add this element to what I'm doing. And so it's you grow with it as you go. This anticipates chapter 4 of the dissertation, which is quite meaty. It actually is going to report everything that you did. The next concluding section is called Results and Contributions, where you relate your expectations about the results and the outcomes of the project, including specifically, and this is important, including benefits and contributions to your specific ministry context. And so you kind of see how you would like it to be beneficial, and you state that in anticipation here in your proposal. Again, it's just a short section. And this, of course, is related to chapter 5 of the dissertation, which, you've got to have done analysis of data before you do chapter 5. So you're kind of leaping out ahead in anticipation a bit. The next short concluding section is called Evaluation of the Project, where you state your hoped for criteria for project evaluation. And in other words, how do you think you will be analyzing the data that you collect? Now, again, you're anticipating, you're not guaranteeing that that's absolutely what you're going to do, but you're giving a sense to when Dr. Flynn reads it, he knows, okay, he or she has thought about it. And they're prepared to do what's necessary to have an excellent project and an excellent dissertation, also connected to chapter 5. And then there's a final, just a summary section based on all the previous sections. You're providing a clear and concise summary of your project. In some cases, when you were doing your lit summary, you had your last section was called summary, and I maybe noted, okay, don't call this summary because your proposal actually has a final section called summary. So just call yours conclusion. And that way nobody's going to get, it's just one of those little things. So that's, let me say something about the working outline and timeline. The very last thing in your proposal that's not going to appear, because remember, ultimately you and your chair working together will convert your proposal into chapter 1. And so chapter 1 is not going to have this. This is not going to have a working outline and a timeline. This is only in the proposal. So you're just kind of thinking about, you're anticipating a reasonable timeline of the various aspects of the candidacy and dissertation phase of your program, really all the way through to your defense, which is kind of the last thing you and your chair will do together. There's steps after that, but it's more what other people then are doing. And I think, you remember, we've had this conversation, but I think it's good to remember that when you jump into 899 next semester, and you're working with the HSR application, you're working with your chair, it's good to remember that whole process, getting going, I have some guys now that are in still the first semester, they're starting to write chapter 2 rather. One guy is still wrestling with his HSR application. That's fine. It needs to take as long as it needs to take. That process is probably a semester. Then the bulk of your work and the bulk of your dissertation writing is going to happen in semester number 2, and it can take longer, but probably on the short end in semester number 2, lots of work, intense work. And then the whole defense process is going to take most of a 3rd semester. So it's good to be realistic, although please remember that this is simply in your proposal designed to provide Dr. Flynn whether or not your project is realistic. Now, even if it's not realistic, he's not going to bump your proposal because of that, but your chair will receive your proposal and may say, you know what, you're a person of great faith. I so much appreciate your attitude. And I just want you to know that it may take longer than that. So your timeline is going to move a bit as you go. You're not on you don't have deadlines. I mean, it's up to you then to make it happen at a pace that works for you. So that's going to be in your proposal. That's, and it does maybe half of a page. It doesn't take up much space. At the very end. So let me ask you, before I call up the template, let me ask you if you have any questions yet about any of this. I'm going to stop sharing. I see that's what I have to do. How you guys doing? Is that okay? Now, what I want you to see is the introductory sections, the concluding sections are all quite short, but they're very, very important, very, very important, because they will give both Dr. Flynn and then your appointed chair a pretty clear sense of what it is you are anticipating. Now, when you go to course resources, you will notice the proposal template. This one is the one that's called proposal template blank. So this has nothing unnecessary written on it. You'll have a proposal template document called annotated. And so it's going to provide some comment as you go along the way. But this is the blank one. Now, what I like about the template, and this is just, you will use the same, when you submit your entire dissertation, this is the same thing that you will have. And so it's only necessary to have 2 members of your committee in the end. I like to have 3 members just because I think we feel more confident with the results. Abstract, it tells you, 150 to 350 words. Etc. Acknowledgements is the only place on your proposal or in the dissertation, for that matter, when it's okay to use first person. Outside of acknowledgements, first person is never to be used. It's just one of those things as academic writing. Now, one of the things I love about the template is that the automatic feature in Word that generates a table of contents is already set up for you. And when you, will this do this for me? So one of the things you can do, if you go up and click, let me show you that. Well, it's already up. When you go up and click toward the top of the table of contents, you will see some options. One gives you a various style for the table of contents. I would leave that alone because the necessary style is already given for you. But updating the table can be good because these numbers are just the page numbers for the template. Once you copy and paste content into the template, those page numbers are going to change. It's not going to automatically show that in the table of contents. You have to go up here and click update the table. Do I want to update the page numbers only or the entire table? Well, if I update the entire table, it may mess me up. So I'm just going to update the page numbers only. Okay, you really did, didn't it? Now you remember for Turabian, you have small Roman numerals with the front matter, and you don't start using Arabic numerals until you come to the body of your work. It's a headache to figure out, okay, how do I get it to start where I want it to start with the small Roman numerals, because I don't want any page numbers at the beginning. I just want to start with the abstract. The abstract is the first place where I want page numbers, and it's going to be page 4 already. So how do I get it to do that? And then how am I going to change to Arabic numerals when I come down past the front matter? Now I want just the regular Arabic numeral number 1. And goodness sakes, if I'm working with Word, I have to figure out how to go in and insert a section break. And then I have to figure out how that's going to affect, you all know what I'm talking about. How is that going to affect the page, the pagination, etc.? Well, the template has done all that for you. So you don't have to worry about the table of contents. You don't have to worry about, okay, now we've switched over to the body of the work. Now I need an Arabic numeral at the bottom. Now what am I going to do? It's done that for you. And so all you need to do is go in and see this is already set up, and copy and paste the overview that you have composed. By the way, some people use the template to do their composing, which is fine. So if you want to begin writing these early sections and you say, I'm just going to use the blank template and I'm going to go in and compose right on that template. Well, that's perfectly fine. It probably save you a step when you do that. If not, you're going to copy and paste what you've composed. Same, you're going to come down to the statement of the problem. You're going to copy and paste, or you're going to compose inside of the template. Rationale for doing, these early sections, limitations, and then assumptions. And then summary of the literature. Remember, summary of the literature is going to have some additional headings, because although this is just a section of the proposal, it's going to be more involved. So you're going to have headings under that, and they're formatted as headings. You'll copy and paste because you've already done your work there. And then, okay, now I'm going to go down to the biblical, theological, historical foundations, copy and paste. And then I will either copy and paste or just compose inside of this blank template methods for analyzing the problem, results and contributions, evaluation of the project, summary, and then ultimately the working outline in the timeline. And so the beautiful thing about the template is it is all set up in Microsoft Word for you. Working bibliography, of course, that's page 2. It's going to be more than that, in all caps, and you'll just start with your bibliographic entries. It's formatted in the opposite fashion as the footnotes, so that the first line is aligned to left, and then second and following are indented. You all remember how that works. So the template is going to save you a ton of time. So if I would advise you to go in and look for what it says, proposal template blank, and that's the one with no annotations, no markings on it. It's just the raw form. It's just the raw template. And you can use that either to compose inside, especially those small pieces, or copy and paste. And remember, when you're done with the whole thing, then you'll go back up to the table of contents and you'll update the table page numbers, and boom, automatically the new page numbers will come in. You don't have to worry. Worrying about page numbers is just a frustration. You don't have to worry about any of that because the template has it all set up for you. So what do you think about the template? Do you have any questions about how this is going to work for you?
Okay, I apologize. While you was talking, I was looking for, is that the dissertation proposal? Is that what we're talking
Yes,
about?
dissertation, you're looking for the proposal template, and then it will say blank after template, because there's an annotated template. You know, there's a couple of versions there, but the one that you want to use is the blank one, because you don't want any other words there. You just want your words there.
Okay. And another thing, so this week, I'm looking at the syllabus. So we're still working on our BTH. We're gonna submit that. And when is this? On the same week, do we do the project design, or is it another week?
No, there is, I would need to confirm that, but there is a discussion forum, Cynthia, on project design. And again, it's just a discussion. So you're just saying, you know, this is what I hope to be able to do in terms of the elements of my project. You're not dealing with research methodology yet. That's coming up in module 5. You know, research methodology is all about qualitative, quantitative, and mixed methods. So you're not discussing that yet. You're going to kind of save that. But you're just anticipating some stuff that you would like to be able to do in your project. And you'll be able to, you know, interact with one another, provide feedback. I always jump in and participate.
That's for this week.
That's all that's happening this week. So finishing, you know, for you and me, finishing the BTH Foundations document, that's what we're going to work on together until we're, you know, happy. We're happy with it.
Okay, okay.
But other than that, you just have a very short assignment. It's just the discussion forum assignment this week.
Okay. Okay.
That's good, Cynthia. Any other? I think I wanted to give you something else over here. So let me just to kind of remind you of our schedule. The proposal schedule, week 12 is when you will submit your first draft of your proposal. First draft simply means, and the beautiful thing is we've been working on it all along. So the only thing I haven't seen are the introductory sections and the concluding sections. So in week 12, you will submit the first draft proposal. Now, because we're in the fall semester, we have an extra week, essentially. We have a week 15, whereas in the summer, there's only 14 weeks. And so in the schedule, we will work together on revising your first draft during week 13. We'll give ourselves plenty of time. In week 14, you will complete, you know, we're kind of partners in this process. You will complete the first draft revisions that we have been working on. And then finally, you know, week 15, the final draft is due. As soon as we get final drafts, you know what I do? I send them on, I package them up, put a nice bow at the top of the package, and I send them on to Dr. Flynn, and I say, wow, it's celebration time, man. These students are the best students we've ever had in the doctorate ministry program. They're going to knock the ball out of the park. And so that's when we celebrate. But see, we've got 4 weeks basically to work on this proposal draft. In the meantime, we do a little bit of a student profile, which is just a template to be filled out. It's not a big assignment. We have another little discussion forum on research methodology. Some good stuff, you know, good stuff, but stuff that's not taking a lot of time, to be quite honest. The proposal is what's taking our time, but we allow ourselves plenty of time to do that, so we don't feel rushed along the way. So you all are amazing. Who am I seeing from Maryland? Is that Travis?
That's Joseph.
Oh, Joseph. Yes, yes, yes. I so much love the research you all are doing. It is so valuable for not only you and your context. You know, a doctoral dissertation, a ministry project is valuable broadly then. I mean, once you get done with all that you're doing, who knows how many people and how many contexts it will benefit. I know Woodrow's work on burnout, Tim's work on the ministry of healing, Malcolm and Cynthia, they're going to go after, you know, the millennials, and let's see if we can catch some Gen Zs along the way. Brother Anderson, he's working on a project that once we're done with this, I need to connect you to, because I've got a dissertation student who's doing something almost identical to you.
Okay, Morangi.
And so it's so very, very important. All the work you're doing is so very, very important. I'm so proud of the good work that you're doing. So we'll continue to push together. We will take it step by step, week by week. My goal is to partner with you and hopefully to encourage you along the way. So you have a sense that, you know what, it's going to be good. You're going to succeed. Don't ever be discouraged along the way. Sometimes I feel like, wow, you know, this is too picky. I'm afraid my brother is not going to, he's going to feel like giving up. No, you're all going to do very, very well. And we're going to cross the finish line together. So any final questions or comments before I pray for you and let you go? Let's continue to pray for Woodrow's good wife. Again, you all know that I can identify easily with what he is doing. We're having a bit of a chat before everybody else got on. So I always pray for Woodrow's wife, but I pray for Woodrow because they've been married so long, they're like attached to the hip. Anything his wife goes through, he goes through. I mean, there's no.
Yes.
So Woodrow, tell me again how long you guys have been married?
51 years.
Man, that's like a couple of lifetimes. That's fantastic.
Yes.
So let's keep praying for one another. Cynthia is wrestling. We don't know, is the governor crooked? We don't know what's going on. Somebody's got money. I mean, somebody's got money.
Somebody got the money. We don't.
They're just not spending it on the problem. They're not spending it on the people. We call that politics.
That's right.
So we're praying for Cynthia, but also for Jackson, Mississippi, all of the various contexts that you all are in. We, our prayer is, as Jesus taught us to pray, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And we're representatives of that prayer. We get to participate in that prayer. So let me pray together for you all.
Don't forget the link.
Yes, thank you. As soon as I sign off, I'm going to do that. Father, I thank you for these good brothers and sisters. I thank you for the wonderful way that you are using them. You've put passion and inspiration in their hearts. You've led them into a project ultimately that will have tremendous fruit, will bear tremendous results in all the years that are ahead. And so I pray that you would cover them with your presence. Thank you for peace. Thank you for grace. Thank you for strength, good health. Thank you for protection. I pray that you would give them supernatural wisdom, even a spirit of wisdom and revelation in the knowledge of God. Father, we're trusting in you to be in control, because everything that we're doing is for your glory. It's for your honor. It's for your great and awesome name. So I just pray that your blessing would rest upon everyone in this class, rest upon our families. We're trusting in you, Father, to lead us and guide us every step along the way. And we thank you for that in Jesus' name. Amen.
So Dr. Asplund, if we want to look at this recording, where do we go?